Hi, this is Matt, and today we're going to show you how to troubleshoot why your GE washer is going out of balance. Before you look at any parts, you want to make sure the washer is sitting level and the load itself isn't actually out of balance. Let's go through the process so we can get your washer up and running. With over 2 million products in stock and the know-how to help you do it yourself, we are AppliancePartsPros.com. The tools we're going to use are a small flathead screwdriver, a 3/8" socket, a 7/16" socket, a ratchet, an extension, an impact driver, a 90 foot-pound torque limiting extension, a 1 5/16" GE socket, a putty knife, a 1/4" nut driver, a multimeter with narrow pin extensions, and some heavy-duty tape. Remember, anytime you're working on an appliance, make sure it's unplugged or the circuit breakers are off so there's no chance of electrocution. Also remember to turn off the hot and cold water supplies and remove the drain hose. During this video, we're going to have to tilt the machine back, so you want to take the water fill hoses off the water inlet valve. You want to make sure you put a towel down so you catch any water that may come out, and also label the hoses so you remember which one's hot and which one's cold. The washer going out of balance could be caused by a few different parts going bad, including the inner wash basket, the hub nut, the suspension rods, suspension rod ball joint, or the speed sensor. Before we begin, make sure to take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can see more of our repair videos. The inner wash basket has liquid in the top part to counterbalance the load itself. If the top is cracked and the liquid is leaked out, the washer will go out of balance. In order to test it, we're just going to open up the washer lid, and then we're going to grab the inner wash basket and shake it back and forth. You should hear the liquid sloshing around inside of it. If not, you'll have to change out the inner wash basket. If the basket checks out okay, then we can move on to the hub nut. The hub nut holds the inner basket in place. If it's damaged or broken in a way that the inner wash basket is loose, it will cause the washer to go out of balance. To get to the hub nut, we just have to reach in with the small flathead screwdriver and pop the agitator cap off. Once you have it off, you can set it aside. Once you have the cover off, we can reach in and take the bolt out with a 7/16" socket, a ratchet, and an extension. Make sure you hold the inner wash basket while you take the bolt out. Once you have the bolt out, you can pull it out. Then pull the agitator up and set it aside. Now that we have the agitator out, we can see the hub nut down there in the center of the tub. If it's damaged or frozen on there, you'll have to change it out. If it's loose, you can try to tighten it down and see if that works. To tighten it down, we're going to use the impact driver, the torque limiting extension, the 1 5/16" GE socket. We're going to hold the tub while we tighten it down. And remember, these are reverse threads, so we're going to go counterclockwise to tighten it down. If the hub nut's not your problem, you can put everything back in and put the washer back together. And then test the next part. Then we can check the suspension rods. There's one in each corner to support the tub assembly. Their springs get weaker as they get older and can cause the washer to go out of balance. In order to test the suspension rods, we have to lift up the top in order to get access to them. We're going to go around to the back of the machine and use the 1/4" nut driver to take out the 2 screws that hold the console on. Once you get it loosened up, you can take a putty knife and just kind of lift up on the screw to make sure it comes out. Set them aside. Then we can lift the console off. All you have to do is pull it back a little bit, lift up, and then pull it off and set it on top of the washer. Now that we have the console out of the way, we can remove the 2 screws that hold the top down. We're just going to slide this capacitor over a little bit. And then we're going to use the 1/4" nut driver to take them out. Now that we have those screws out, we're going to put the console back in place. Just going to lift it up and put the tabs in. And drop it down, push it forward. And we're going to use the 1/4" nut driver to put in one of the screws to hold it in place. Now we're back around front. We're going to lift up the washer lid so we can release the locking tabs that hold the top down. We're just going to use a putty knife to reach in and unlock them. They're located right here at the edge of each little hand opening in the front. And we're gonna use the rim of the top to help lift up on it so they don't lock back in when we release them. Once you have them both released, we're just gonna carefully put the lid down and tape it down so it doesn't fall open when we lift up the top. Now we can lift up the washer top assembly. We're just gonna carefully lift it up, and we're gonna use a lanyard to support ours, but you can just put a towel across the top and lean it against the wall if it's close enough. Whatever you do, just make sure it's supported properly since there are no hinges connecting it to the cabinet. There's no good way to check the suspension rods except for doing the bounce test, where you press down on the tub really hard and it should bounce back up a little bit. Shouldn't bounce around and be all loose and wobbly. So just press down on it, let it go up. Just go down and come back up with one bounce. Even if the suspension rods pass the test, they could still be the cause of our problem, but let's rule out the other causes first. If everything else checks out, then we'll know it's the suspension rods that need to be changed. Then we can test the suspension rod ball joints. There's one in every corner that support the suspension rods. If they're damaged, they could cause the washer to go out of balance. In order to test them, we have to reach inside and grab a suspension rod and lift it up so we can remove the ball joint from the rod. If there's any wear or damage on the ball joint, you'll have to replace it. If everything in here checks out, we can put the machine back together so we can test the other parts. We're gonna take the lanyard out and then carefully set the top down so it locks in place. Then we can remove the tape. Then we go around back and use the 1/4" nut driver to take out the screw that holds the console in. Then we're gonna lift the console up just like before and set it on top. Then we can use the 1/4" nut driver to put in the screws that hold the top to the cabinet. Then we can move the capacitor into place. Then we can replace the console. And we're going to use the 1/4" nut driver to put in one of the screws to hold it in place. The speed sensor tells the control board how fast the motor is turning. If it fails, the motor may run too fast and cause the washer to go out of balance. First thing we're going to check on the speed sensor is whether it has a good connection and if it's damaged where it's mounted on the motor. We're going to tilt the washer back so we can get underneath. Just want to carefully tilt it back. You can put something underneath it or put a towel on the top and rest it against the wall, but just tilt it far enough back so you can get underneath. Now that we have the machine tilted back, we have access to the cover. We're going to use a 3/8" socket with an extension and a ratchet to take out the bolts that hold it on. Once you have the cover out of the way, we have access to the speed sensor. It's right here on the motor. We're just gonna make sure the wire harness has a good connection. And you just wanna shake the speed sensor around and kind of move it on the motor. There's little tabs on there that hold it to the motor. And if it's not held in properly, it won't read properly. If it's damaged, you'll have to change it out. If it looks okay, we can go up top and test it electrically. Now we're going to put the cover back on. You just want to line it up and put it in place. Then we're going to use the 3/8" socket with the ratchet and extension to put the bolts in. And you want to make sure on the bottom one you put the ground wire on. Then we can set the washer back on its feet, plug it back in, and run the diagnostic test. To put it into diagnostic mode to check for any error codes, you want to look underneath the machine and see if you can find the tech sheet. If not, you can just follow along, but just be aware your model might be different. We're just going to press the start button for 10 seconds until the lights come on. Once the lights come on, you want to look at these 6 lights right here and see what's flashing and not flashing so we can compare it to the tech sheet. Once you have the code from the display, we're going to look at the list And you want to remember that the colors are opposite, so light is dark and dark is light. So for our code is 26, which is out of balance. Now that we've checked the code and it's 26 related to the out of balance, we've already checked everything else, so we're going to go in back and check the speed sensor at the control board. Now we're going to use a 1/4" nut driver to remove the screw that holds the access panel on. We're just going to take it out and then lift up on the bottom of the panel and slide it to the right and pull it off. Now we're going to lift the console up. Just want to pull it back a little bit, then lift it up, and then we're just going to carefully rotate it over so we have access to the control board. We're going to have to plug the machine back in and do live voltage testing, so extreme care should always be taken to protect against electrical shock, which can potentially cause serious injury. Please don't do any live voltage testing if you're uncomfortable using a multimeter around live voltage. We're going to work on this wire harness in the upper left corner. The 6 wires are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as you're looking down at them. We're going to use the meter to test them. We're going to test in DC voltage. So you want to make sure your meter is set to the proper DC range. The first one we're going to test is from 3, which is the orange, over to 5, which is the yellow. And we should get around 9.6 volts. Then we're going to test wires 1 through 5, which is the blue to the yellow again. We're just going to stick the probes in and leave them there. And then we have to go around front and open up the lid a little bit and spin the tub. You want to make sure that the voltage is jumping around while the tub is spinning, and then it should settle around 4.5. Ours is checking out good, so we can unplug the washer again and move on. Now that we know everything tested okay, and the only possible cause of the out of balance issue is the suspension rods, we're going to go around the back, open up the machine, and change them out. Since we already have the console out, we're just going to take the screws out that hold it down. We're going to use the 1/4" nut driver to take them out. Then we're going to flip the console over, put it back in place. We can grab the access panel, put it back on. We can use the 1/4" nut driver to put in one of the screws to hold it down. Then the rest is the same as we did before. The suspension rods are all changed out the same way. The rears are a different part number than the fronts, so make sure you order the right ones. To take out the old suspension rod, we're going to reach in and grab it by the rod and lift it up so we can take the ball joint off the end. And then lower it down. Then you want to guide the rod out through the little slot in the tub, and then we can pull it out. Once you have it free, you can pull it off the machine. Here's the old suspension rod next to the new one. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can get it at appliancepartspros.com. To put the new suspension rod in, we're just going to get the tub out of the way, lower it down into place, and put it through the slot in the tub and lift up on it. We're going to grab it, bring it up through the hole in the cabinet, and then put the ball joint back on. Once you have it on, you can set it in place, and then we can put the washer back together. Now that you have the washer put back together, you can put the fill hoses back on, plug it back in, turn the water on, and put the drain hose back in. Once you know which part has failed, you can take your model number and search for the correct part at appliancepartspros.com. Most parts arrive within just a few days. When you receive the part, we have more videos to help you with the repair. If this video helped you out, let us know in the comments and hit the like and subscribe buttons to see more of our videos. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you next time.